Chapter 436, A Wall That Can't Be Avoided. Lord Grimm had already returned to the heavenly domain, but the 10th server club guilds had already suffered heavy losses. He had returned at level 50 and left behind 4 records. What about when he reached level 52? He could return to set level 51 to 52 dungeon records. At level 54, he could set level 53 to 54 dungeon records. And then level 55, level 60, all the way until level 70. Lord Grimm wasn't there anymore, but his record-breaking spirit was still there. Were the club guilds of the 10th server going to be unable to get a single record? If that was the case, they were no different than normal player guilds. How would the 10th server players know how powerful they were? Speaking of this, it already seemed to be the case. Whether it was compared to the heavenly domain or any of the other 9 normal servers, in the 10th server, the club guilds were undoubtedly at a lower status. Where did their popularity in their 10th server come from? Firstly, it was directly from their own guild's players. Secondly, it was by relying on the fame of their club to attract veteran players that had come to the 10th server to start over. New players occupied the majority of the player base on the 10th server, but there were still veterans like Seven Fields and Sleeping Moon who had come to the new server to play. They obviously knew of the club guild's fame. Their name alone was enough to attract them. After that, their way to spread their name was through dungeon records and first clears. On the level standings, the players from their guilds were at the top. And after that, there was nothing else. Their only way to spread their name and prove their strength was through dungeon records. In the 10th server, everyone knew that Lord Grimm ruled in this area. The guilds had already admitted their defeat here. Why else would no one challenge Lord Grimm's team? They were always thinking of some way to stop them, not beat them. Without dungeon records, it really was very difficult for the guilds to widen their influence. In the 10th server, the players only knew individuals and not guilds. Even though Guild Happy had taken all of those dungeon records, the players only felt like it was because Guild Happy had Lord Grimm. They might not think that the guild itself was powerful. The 10th server players already had the same thought in their head: wherever Lord Grimm appeared was where the dungeon record would be. This completely twisted the notion of dungeon records. The records were something that required a team to set, but for the 10th server players, they only thought of a single individual. The record didn't belong to the team, but rather to Lord Grimm. Even if Lord Grimm went to the heavenly domain at level 50, the club branches didn't feel any better. This was because the existence of Lord Grimm had already influenced everyone in the 10th server. The legends of Lord Grimm were deeply ingrained in everyone's heart. From now on, even if the top guild set a dungeon record, the 10th server players would only have one thought: the reason you were able to set a record was because Lord Grimm wasn't there. Lord Grimm was a giant mountain. No matter how hard you tried to go around it, it would be of no use. The mountain would always stand there, looked up at. If you wanted to replace it, the only way would be to flatten it or create an even bigger mountain. An even bigger mountain? No guild leader would ever imagine that happening. They were against Yi Chu. Even in the pro scene, there was no mountain that surpassed him. What could a little group of ants do? Be laughed at? Flatten him? Just mentioning it made them want to cry. Everyone who had tried to flatten him was now a corpse below the mountain, which only made the mountain even more terrifying. The poor guilds knew of this reasoning, but there was nothing that they could do. They could only quietly forge ahead. If they wanted to go far away, they would need to go so far that the mountain would no longer be in sight. That way, the mountain would be forgotten. But at this moment, Lord Grimm suddenly came back from the heavenly domain and set 4 records. The mountain had appeared again, and it seemed like it would never stop appearing. The guilds finally understood that it was never a mountain, but rather a mountain range that spanned the entire world. The branch guilds were all crying. They only hoped that their main guild in the heavenly domain would hurry up and move, so that there would never be a day when he could return. But did the main guilds in the heavenly domain care about the feelings of their 10th server branches? Not one bit. They were currently playing a game of, if no one moves, everyone loses. But whoever moves first also loses. Yi Shu was currently leveling. Chen Guo was accompanying him on her chasing haze. Forest landscape was there, too. The 4 fake experts were there, too. Chen Guo had already bought 4 suitable replacements and traded them with the 4 people. The 4 people took the accounts, contacting their former friends to add them again, while chasing after their god's footsteps. The god was definitely going to create a guild, so the 4 decided not to contact their guild and would wait for the god to add them when the guild was formed. These past few days, Ma Chenyi of Grand Internet Cafe had sent over the 24 account cards he had lost in the bet. They were all heavenly domain characters. Ma Chenyi wasn't petty either. He sent over the account cards in the same condition as when they had been bought. None of the accounts had their equipment or money taken away. Among these 24 accounts, there were 7 empty ones. The remaining ones had a few pieces of equipment on them. Chen Guo looked over them and saw that they were very ordinary. She hadn't made in requirements, so Ma Chenyi obviously wouldn't send over any amazing accounts. It wouldn't be a problem if we created our guild now, Chen Guo said. 24 account cards was 24 characters. With those 4 brothers as well as Lord Grimm, Forest Landscape and her, they would even have 1 extra. There's no hurry. We could have created it a long time ago if we wanted to, Yi Shu said. I know. I'm just saying. Are you going to use these accounts? Chen Guo arranged the 24 account cards in a neat pile. There's no need for it now, but there'll be a time for them, Yi Shu said. Should I give the Battle Mage to Little Tang? Chen Guo took out the Battle Mage account card. No. It'd be better if she reached here step by step. That way, she'll be able to get familiar with the Battle Mage skills. If all of the skills are pushed to her in one go, her understanding of them won't be as deep, Yi Shu said. What about Miu Miu? Chen Guo took out the launcher account card. She's very particular about names. I don't think she would like this launcher's name, Yi Shu said. Yeah, it's a male character, too. Chen Guo had looked at this launcher carefully. The character was male and had a huge face, too. She didn't want Su Cheng to use this account either. Has there been any news from Lulan / Chen Guo asked after putting away the account cards. Not yet. They said today, Chen Guo said. There's still a lot of time left today, Yi Shu said calmly. What if he doesn't agree? Do you have any backup plans? Chen Guo asked. In Yi Shu's plan, allying with Lulan / was a very important step because the fake experts that were currently misleading the enemies wouldn't last long. There would be a time the guilds would have to move. For example, for Lu Hao's group, in the worst-case scenario, they would have to charge in and perhaps die a few times, but they would at least be able to figure out how many helpers Yi Shu had at his side. This was something that Yi Shu didn't want to see because he didn't actually have any helpers. He had always been playing alone. If he declines, Yi Shu was just about to say something when his chat box flashed. He checked it and saw that it was from Lulan / Yi Shu immediately replied, while Chen Guo came over to look at his screen. After thinking about it carefully these past few days, Lulan / message. Just get to the point, Chen Guo slammed the table. Yi Shu was smiling though, it's probably good news then. Sure enough, Lulan / expressed his approval to working with Yi Shu. I'd be happy to cooperate, Yi Shu replied. Haha, after thinking carefully about it these past few days, we think that a cooperation will definitely be something to be happy about, Lulan / replied. What do you plan on doing next? Yi Shu asked. We're going to drag you to our guild, of course. Where are you? Lulan / asked. The two sides agreed on a location and met up. Lulan / was leading the same 4 players from before, giving Chen Guo another reason to despise his ostentatiousness. Soon afterwards, Yi Shu's Lord Grimm joined Lulan /'s guild, Heavenly Justice. Chen Guo listened to Yi Shu's arrangement and didn't join for now. She and Forest Landscape continued to be free. If you two have time, you guys should check out the Glory forums and the esport websites, Lulan / said to Yi Shu and Chen Guo. You're going to begin announcing your team, Yi Shu smiled. Yes. Could we trouble you to have a spar with our brothers? Lulan / said. You still want to test if I'm real or not, Yi Shu said. A bit, but more importantly, we would like it if you could measure our skill level, and we also hope God could give us a few pointers as well. Lulan Slash was quite modest. By calling him God, it was already clear that Lulan Slash believed that Yishu was Yichu. Haha, no problem. What class would you like to play against? Yishu asked. What class? Lulan Slash stared blankly. Yeah, any class is fine, Yishu said. Because you're unspecialized? Lulan Slash said. No, it's because I have 24 account cards of each class with me right now, Yishu said, while indicating Chen Guo to bring over the stack of account cards. So you really are going to use them? Chen Guo was speechless. Lulan Slash stared stupidly for a bit, and after a brief pause, he spoke, then let's go to the arena and make a room. God, could you give me your contact information? That way it'll be easy to find you when you switch accounts. Okay, Yishu nodded his head, and the outside of the game, the two added each other on QQ. Chapter 437, what class would you like to play first? The heavenly domain had a huge world and thus had many cities. The experience loss and equipment drop chance was higher here than in the normal servers as well. The official statement was that it was done to increase interactions between players, but in reality, it was to increase competitiveness. In Glory, equipment could be bound. However, from a monetary perspective, binding the item wasn't good. If the item was bound and one wanted to switch equipment, the player wouldn't be able to sell his old equipment for money. This made binding equipment a difficult choice. Choosing to bind the equipment would guarantee safety, but it also meant a loss in money. From the system's perspective, the system encouraged players to bind their equipment. Bound equipment would lose their value in their market, which meant that the system had taken it back. If the equipment was kept circulating, then the equipment would only continue to lose value with each new one that appeared out in the market. Lulan Slash took Yishu's group to the city Sword Shadow, which was where their guild, Heavenly Justices, headquarters was located at. In the heavenly domain, guilds could possess a certain amount of territory. Of course, the prerequisites for this were power and wealth. As a result, most player guilds wouldn't ever think of having their own territory. This wasn't a problem for club guilds, and Lulan Slash's guild had money to strengthen their power, so they had a much easier time developing than normal players. After entering the city, they entered the arena. For top-level cities, there was practically no difference in facilities inside the city. All the necessary ones were there. The only difference would be the amount of small buildings. Each city only needed one arena. It was the equivalent of a teleport device. How about fixed field? The equipment on the account cards I have aren't very good, Yishu said. Oh, Lulan Slash was a bit surprised. Wasn't he a god? God's request seemed a little weak. We're testing skill anyways, so equipment isn't important, Yishu said. That's true, Lulan Slash said. An equipment's quality could be directly observed. All one had to do was look at the stats. Lulan Slash was looking to test skill level, so equipment wasn't important. What class do you want me to play first? Yishu asked. Battle Mage, of course, Lulan Slash laughed. No problem, Yishu also laughed. Lord Grimm logged out and logged into the Battle Mage account. He didn't head towards Sword Shadow City and just went to the nearest arena. He logged onto QQ, asked for the room number and then joined the room. Lulan Slash, as well as Chen Guo and Forest Landscape, had both joined to spectate. Seeing Yishu enter with a battle mage, the old veterans were all speechless. How could the equipment on him be called not very good? The battle mage was practically naked. No one needed to look at his character's info page. They could see it just by looking at him. Wow, it doesn't even have a weapon, Yishu mumbled. The fixed field only adjusted for the equipment stats. If his battle mage didn't have a weapon, then he wouldn't even be able to use his class's skills. I have one here. Just make do with it for now. His opponent was the battle mage in Lulan Slash's group. His current feelings were a bit complex facing his idol. He had an extra battle mage weapon on hand, so he threw it over. Yishu went over and picked it up. Dang, it's a spear. This account is a staff style. The staff style path of battle mages used magic wands, not spears. Magic wands were weapons with high magic attack. Battle mages were a class that dealt both physical and magic damage. Staff-style battle mages relied more on magic to deal damage. Their main method of attacking was through chasers and was one of the features of a staff-style battle mage. Staff-style battle mages also had higher attack speed. This was because magic wands attacked at an average speed, while spears attacked at a slow speed. Faster attacks allowed for more chasers. Yishu's character was a staff-style battle mage. If he used a spear for battle, his magic damage would be much lower. But most importantly, his attack speed would be slower. Attack speed wasn't a basic stat, so the fixed field wouldn't fix it. Does anyone have a magic wand? Lulan asked. There was an elementalist in his group. Elementalists usually used magic staffs because of their very high magic attack, but some used magic wands. This was because magic wands not only attacked faster, but also cast faster. Mine is bound. This elementalist was called Ocean Ahead. He had a magic wand, but because it was bound, it couldn't be traded. It's fine. A spear will do, Yishu said. This was the type of air that a god should have. Then shall we start, the opposing battle mage said. This was the player called Little Bei by Lulan /. His battle mage character's name was called Homeward Bound. Start, Yishu replied. Little Bei confirmed and the two sides began to fight. 5 seconds had passed. Neither side had moved. Little Bei was waiting to admire his idol's play. Yishu didn't know his opponent's skill. Both sides wanted to see the other side move first. In this small boxing ring, the two sides could see each other, but neither side moved. The spectators were all friends, so when they started seeing that the two weren't fighting, they decided to yell at them. Go and fight messages came out. Yeah, fight, Yishu said. There wasn't any bad blood between him and Lulan / and the two had decided to cooperate together, so the match wasn't anything serious. Little Bei saw that neither of them were moving and also felt it was funny. Following Yishu's words, he immediately controlled his homeward bound to rush forward. Oh, not bad. The two sides began fighting, attack after attack. Yishu had already begun commenting. Are you going to be a part of the team's main roster? Yishu asked. Am I good enough? Little Being said. Depends on the team, Yishu said. Champion team, Little Being said. Having a dream is good, Yishu praised, but he was clearly implying that he wasn't good enough. Then I won't be nice anymore, Little Bei shouted. Oh, you were still holding back, Yishu said. After 2 minutes, Homeward Bound fell. You were holding back, Yishu doubted. Shameless, Little Bei cried. His corpse sent out a word bubble. This was an in-game arena, so the settings were decided by the players. It wasn't like the pro matches, where word bubbles were restricted when one died. I thought you were staff-styled. Why'd you use a spear style? Little Bei was sad. You're too inflexible. Who says you're only allowed to use one style? Yishu said. Yishu said this, but in reality, Yishu really only used a spear style of playing. The difference between the spear style and staff style was that the spear style mainly used physical attacks to deal damage. However, the two styles prioritized different skills, so his damage wasn't as good. Even so, Yishu was still able to easily beat Little Bei's Homeward Bound. The victory had looked easy, too. Lulan / and his fellow companions all looked at each other. They had been fairly confident in their skill. To be defeated so easily meant that he really was Yichu. If their skill was that far from a god, then being a champion team really was just a dream right now. Who's next? What class would you like to fight? Yishu asked. Please use the same class. The next to jump out was the elementalist Ocean Ahead. Ocean, good luck, Little Bei shouted. Really? Ocean Ahead laughed. He obviously knew that Little Bei admired Yichu. With his identity appearing to be true, would he sincerely cheer for him? Really, Little Being said, but you'll still lose anyways. Even if 10,000 people came to cheer for you, it'd be no use. F***ck off, Ocean Ahead cursed. However, he really didn't have any confidence because he knew how good Little Bei was. Even if he wasn't Yi Chu, his skill was the real deal. Ocean Ahead was more on the cautious side. After the match began, he pulled open the distance and didn't hurry to move forward. On the other hand, Yi Chu's battle mage waved his spear and an elementalist skill, Flame Explosion, shot towards him. Ocean Ahead hastily rolled and dodged. What are you doing? Are you going to fight like an elementalist? Just as he said this, he heard a bow as he got up from his roll. For an elementalist, he was very familiar with this sound. It was the sound of a frostball hitting. So unlucky, Ocean Ahead thought. He felt that if he had rolled left, he would have been fine. But when he looked to the left, he discovered that a dark missile had just flown past him. How quick! Ocean Ahead was surprised. The opponent had cast 3 spells one after the other. These low-level spells had a low cast time. His opponent had covered all of his options, so he would have been hit by a spell if he went left or right. If Ocean Ahead had rolled right, he would have been hit by a frost ball. If he had rolled left, he would have been caught by the dark missile. Staff styles will learn lots of elementalist and witch skills. Didn't you know that? Yi Chu said. His character flicked his sleeve and a purple shadow came out and wrapped around Ocean Ahead. Sure enough, it was the witch skill, Shadow Cloak. Right afterwards was the battle mage skill, Sky Strike. Ocean Ahead was launched into the air. A magic chaser flew out and exploded. The explosion blasted Ocean Ahead towards the ground. Who would have thought that at this moment, Ocean Ahead would fly back up into the air again? Impossible. Ocean Ahead was startled. Sky Strike's cooldown wasn't that quick. But when he looked again, he saw an elemental wave above his head and understood what had happened. The knock-up skill that had been used wasn't the battle mage's Sky Strike, but rather the elementalist knock-up skill, Elemental Power. The way this account added skill points is quite interesting. Yi Chu mumbled and then went up to combo. Ocean Ahead had been caught completely unprepared. He had originally been planning on being careful, but apart from his initial roll, he never touched the ground again until he fell, defeated. Chapter 438, The Opponent is Too Strong. Lulan/'s group were even more shocked this time. If Little Bei's Homeward Bound had lost without much suspense, then Ocean Ahead had lost in an almost ugly way. Being directly comboed to death in the air was something that was rarely seen in the Pro Alliance. No matter how amazing a god was compared to an aspiring pro player without any experience, the gap shouldn't be that large. What happened? Lulan/ asked when Ocean Ahead came down from the field. His timing is too good. He predicted what I was planning on doing every time, Ocean Ahead said. What you were planning on doing? Yes, he saw through it all, Ocean Ahead said. Just from this, it could be seen that their skill wasn't ordinary. They at least understood what went wrong when they lost. Little Yi, you go next, Lulan/ said in a heavy voice. Whether they won or lost wasn't something they cared about, but losing 2 matches in a row so miserably was a bit shameful. Even if their opponent was a god, they weren't regarding themselves as normal players. Their goal was to become pro players. For pro players to have such a large gap between them, wouldn't that be a joke? Okay. The player called Little Yi played on a grappler called Night Tide. Little Yi, good luck, Little Bei cheered. Night Tide didn't make any small talk with Yi Chu like Ocean Ahead before him. He entered the match and the two quickly began fighting. For this match, Night Tide had completely eliminated his attitude of just playing for fun and giving it a try. He was taking it seriously as if it were a real match. Grapplers were a class that required to be in a close range to do anything. Yi Chu continued his previous strategy when he was against Ocean Ahead. He used Elementalist and Witch low-leveled skills to maintain a distance between them, while being prepared to use Battle Mage attacks at any moment. This match wasn't as lopsided as the previous 2 matches. Lulan/ could finally relax. Little Bei and Ocean Ahead were feeling a bit embarrassed. Night Tide wasn't any better than them. It was clearly a matter of attitude. If they had taken it seriously, they wouldn't have lost so easily to the god. Of course, their unpreparedness was another important reason. In a situation where both sides lacked information, Yi Chu's experience as a god was a huge advantage. Although Night Tide had lost, he had lost in an acceptable manner. After he came down, Lulan / personally went up to fight. There was still one more player in their group of 5 called Thousand Falling Leaves, a female. Her class was a cleric and it didn't seem like she was going to go up and fight. This meant that she was a support cleric. Fighting 1v1 was pointless. God, please instruct me, Lulan / said. Sure. In the fixed field, your sword point is a bit of a waste, Yi Shu said. In the fixed field, the stats of each character were adjusted, so both sides were at the same level. Sword point converted the item hotkeys into physical attack, but this value would be adjusted, so the two side stats would still be on the same level. As a result, he wouldn't be able to showcase sword point's incredible damage. We're testing for skill, no? Equipment isn't important, Lulan / said. Taking advantage of sword point's power is one way to showcase skill, Yi Shu said. Lulan / nodded his head. He had obviously done his research when he chose this weapon. This didn't mean that he should raise his physical attack to the limit. If all 12 item hotkeys were filled with weapons, then the weight would be too much of a burden. Thus, how many item hotkeys should be filled required a lot of experimenting. However, in the fixed field, none of this mattered. Lulan / said a "let's start" and then the two began fighting. Lulan / didn't dare be careless and fought seriously like Night Tide. Oh, you're okay? You're a bit better than those 3, Yi Shu commented, while fighting. Thank you, Lulan / replied. But this wasn't any news to them. They had sparred against each other many times before, so they knew who was better and who was weaker. It seems like God is still better though, Lulan / followed. Halfway into the battle, from their respective health left as well as the circumstances, Lulan / was in a disadvantageous position. I should be, Yi Shu laughed. There wasn't any twist to this match as it quietly ended. In the end, Lulan / wasn't able to take a match from Yi Shu's hands. 4 of their players had went up to fight, but all of them had lost. Even though they said that winning or losing didn't matter, it was still a bit hit to their confidence. Before, they had only looked at videos, watched match VODs, and then compared themselves to the pro players and gods. This was their first time fighting against a genuine pro god and truly experienced the gap between them. It wasn't important that none of them were able to take a match. The important point was that the gap in skill they had felt from these matches wasn't something that could easily be closed. At this moment, they lacked the fearlessness of youth that Tang Ru had even when she couldn't see the gap. Again, Lulan / discussed with his teammates, when he heard Yi Shu ask happily, would you like to challenge any other class? How about your Lord Grimm, Lulan / finally said after discussing with his team. Oh, that'll be even tougher, Yi Shu said. He switched accounts and logged onto Lord Grimm. The 20-level gap was adjusted by the fixed field. Lulan / went with the same arrangement as before and each player fought one match. In the end, Lulan / regretted deciding to fight Lord Grimm. All 4 of them lost even more miserably than the previous time. Against the battle mage, Little Bei and Ocean Ahead had been somewhat careless. In addition, Yi Shu's play style had caught them off guard. Night Tide and Lulan / had taken it seriously and did much better. But for this round, all 4 of them played very seriously. And before they went up on stage, they did preemptive thinking and planning, but the result was even worse than last time. Against an unspecialized who had access to the skills of all 24 classes, the 4 clearly didn't have the experience nor the decision-making to keep up. After returning from losing, the cleric Thousand Falling Leaves quietly said, even if this was a group competition, you guys still would have lost. In other words, the total damage all 4 players inflicted on Lord Grimm wouldn't be enough to take down his health bar. It could be said that Yi Shu had won 1v4. All 4 were silent. It wasn't that they hadn't expected a gap between them. They just didn't think that it would be so large. Their previous confidence felt naive and arrogant. Nice, Chen Guo didn't empathize at all with the other side and praised Yi Shu. That's how it should be, Yi Shu laughed. That'll be it for today, Lulan / said. His tone clearly showed how disappointed he was. Everyone left the arena and stood outside the entrance. For a moment, neither side talked. What's wrong? With how you guys are, you guys don't seem like you'll be competing in the Pro Alliance, Yishu said. With such a large gap, how could we even hope to compete? Little Bei couldn't help but say what he was feeling. What? Did you guys really think that you could become champions as soon as you entered the Pro Alliance? Yishu said. That was just a joke, Lulan said, but we had always thought that we were good enough to enter the playoffs. And then if your luck was good, you might be able to miraculously become champions, am I right? Yishu laughed. That. Lulan felt a bit embarrassed because that really was what they had been thinking. This was because the playoffs was in an elimination format. Sometimes, one mistake could lead to dropping out of the playoffs. Luck was undoubtedly a very important factor in these types of moments. If one's luck was really good, then winging one's way to becoming champions really was a possibility. As a result, they had a lot of these types of dreams when they privately spoke to each other. Slow and steady, one step at a time, Yishu said. If we enter the Pro Alliance right now, what place do you think we would get? Little Bei couldn't help but ask. Are you the only ones in the team? Do you have any other teammates? Yishu asked. We have 6 players. One of ours hasn't been able to come on these past few days, but his skill level is around the same as ours. We're planning on finding some way to get more, Lulan said. Digging out pro players? Yishu asked. Probably, Lulan said. Which pro players are you looking at? Yishu asked. Lulan hesitated. With the team's preparations at this stage, they already had a list of players they wanted. After their application into the alliance was completed, they would immediately begin getting in touch with them. However, this sort of thing was more of a secret. Lulan wasn't sure if he should tell Yishu or not. Yishu didn't wait for him to reply and continued, you'll definitely need pro players and they must be veterans. Please don't think of using U6 as the main roster and finding 4 or 5 others to be reserve players and then switch them around every match. The 5 were all sweating like mad. That was clearly what they had been planning. In the Pro Alliance, you're all just rookies, Yishu said, you need to find veterans and from them, you will learn a lot of things. Okay, Lulan replied. There's more, Yishu said. The 5 listened carefully. Don't take today's matches too seriously, Yishu said, it's not that you guys aren't good, it's just that your opponent was too strong. The 5 cried. They even forgot to put out emojis or it. Chapter 439, A Strong Alliance. Yishu's habit of predicting everything was something Chen Guo had experienced many times before, and it didn't feel like it was strange anymore. However, seeing the dead-like reaction from Lulan group, she felt quite delighted looking at their misfortune. Chen Guo couldn't feel happy about how Lulan was running his operation and felt very happy after Yishu gave them a good beating. Yishu's comforting wasn't very helpful. These 5 were still in low spirits. They had once been looking forward to it, but after the battle was fought, it all became a nightmare. There was even a bit of lingering fear when they thought about it. They were secretly celebrating that they had only been talking about it amongst themselves before. If they had announced how extraordinary their team would be, then when they entered the Pro Alliance, people would treat them like a joke. After all, in esports, most players were young, especially in the pro scene. Lulan group wasn't old either and also had youthful thoughts. They had thought of hiding their true strength and then when they entered the Pro Alliance, they would scare and astound everyone, knocking those pro players from their feet. It would feel great. But now, they finally realized that their thoughts were too naive and ignorant. When they watched the matches, they hadn't felt like pro players were a big deal. They could do everything the pros could do, things like hand speed had been practiced until they weren't a problem. They hadn't thought that when they fought a real god, it wouldn't be like how they had imagined it to be. In practice, they could easily reach 200 or 300 APM, but in a real battle, they weren't able to put it to use. The combos they had practiced so thoroughly had been broken in a few moves by their opponent. Lulan group wasn't able to escape their crushed morale, but the announcements that they had planned had already begun. The news first spread through the Glory forums. In these forums, quite a few discussions concerned Lord Grimm. In these discussions, messages popped up pointing out Lord Grimm's circumstances and whereabouts. Lord Grimm had joined Guild Heavenly Justice. Even though Heavenly Justice didn't have branch networks and the normal servers like clubs, they were already a huge name in the Heavenly domain. In reality, many players felt that once they had reached the Heavenly domain, the normal servers would be things of the past. Any achievements made in the normal server weren't worth bragging about. Thus, the long-term plans of the club guilds in the new servers were mainly ignored by the vast majority of players. They only cared about the Heavenly domain. And here, Heavenly Justice was a rare player guild that had the power to compete with the club guilds. On one side was a very famous player guild. On the other side was an immensely popular mystery character. With the two combined, they immediately began stirring up the forum users who were slowly beginning to lose interest in Lord Grimm. Gossip immediately began to fly around. The clubs quickly received this news. They didn't even need to look through the forums. For a guild like Heavenly Justice, even though they weren't considered main competitors, they still had to take precautions against them if they suddenly jumped out. The club guilds were responsible for their image and the balance of power between themselves. But how could a player guild care about this? They simply did something if they thought it was cool, so their movements couldn't be predicted. For a ticking time bomb like this, the club guilds would plant a few spies there and gather some intelligence. Members like these could see guild announcements, so they quickly sent the news to their guilds. After observing for several days, the club guilds hadn't thought that there would be such a result. They hadn't dared to make any casual movements against Lord Grimm with his recent fame. Now that he had joined the famous guild Heavenly Justice, moving against Lord Grimm would be even more troublesome. The information coming out of the forums was attracting everyone's eyes and leading everyone's discussions. This made the club guilds feel like this was becoming a bigger and bigger problem, but it didn't stop here. All of the big esport platforms soon came out with another piece of news. Guild Heavenly Justice's leader Lulan Slash was planning on creating a team to join next season's Pro Alliance. The information being spread in the forums might have just been gossip, but the official announcements from these esport platforms wouldn't bring false news. This piece of news was quickly spread to every place a glory player might step into. Lulan Slash was already quite a famous player in Glory. His name alone was enough to attract many eyes. News of him creating a team would naturally receive a lot of attention. More importantly, with the previous news that Lord Grimm had joined Guild Heavenly Justice, everyone immediately understood that wasn't Lord Grimm joining a guild. Wasn't that clearly saying that Lord Grimm was going to join Lulan Slash's team? It was no wonder that such a famous expert like Lord Grimm hadn't been scouted out by the established clubs. He had already been roped in by Lulan Slash. Many players knew that Lulan Slash was a player with lots of money. However, no one knew exactly what his background was. The amount of news that had been announced wasn't actually that much. It was just that Lulan Slash was planning on creating a team to join next season's Pro Alliance and that Lord Grimm had already joined Guild Heavenly Justice. Once the club guilds knew of this piece of news, the problem would no longer be pondered over only by the guild leaders. This issue had already been thrown to the upper levels of the clubs. Facing a team wasn't something that the guild leaders had the power to create countermeasures for. In today's Pro Alliance, every season, the two lowest placing teams in the Pro Alliance would be eliminated. Afterwards, two teams would join the Pro Alliance to fill up the vacancies. The Glory competitive scene hadn't been around for very long, so they hadn't reached the point where they could have a complete secondary league. For now, they could only use this type of elimination format. How did they choose the two new teams to enter? The Alliance had their own way of selection. The clubs obviously knew what the requirements were. With the season at this stage, it was about time for next season's team selection to be done. An announcement at this time was quite reliable. Moreover, these clubs had their channels and contacts. After inquiring about it, they confirmed that this news could be trusted. The clubs didn't dare stay idle facing a team. In today's alliance, a new team didn't necessarily mean a weak team, especially if it was supported by strong investment. With the power of money, it was very possible to directly create a luxurious team. At the same time, they would make the market a mess as well as disrupt the alliance's structure. The new team's leader, Lulan Slash, was a famous player known to have lots of money. Moreover, no one knew exactly how deep his pockets were. The clubs had no choice but to be wary, especially since Lulan Slash had somehow pulled in Lord Grimm. The players didn't know who was behind Lord Grimm, but the clubs knew this very clearly. That was God Yi Chu. If it wasn't for his retired status, he would have definitely broken the headlines. Even though Lulan Slash couldn't use him in the next season, creating a powerful team wasn't just a possibility with the ability of a textbook and God by his side. After this news was verified, the clubs immediately held an emergency meeting. Yi Chu alone was something they had to be wary of, but it wasn't anything scary. However, now that he had actually found a powerful backer, they immediately became uneasy. Some were even beginning to wonder whether Yi Chu suddenly retiring from Excellent Era was because he had already made an agreement with Lulan Slash. Lulan Slash planning on creating a team and applying wasn't something that could be done in a day. Reaching the requirements necessary for applying wasn't work that could be accomplished in a short amount of time. They wouldn't be surprised if Lulan Slash had already been planning for a year or two. When did Yi Chu make an agreement with him? To make Yi Chu give up on Excellent Era, which he had led for 7 full years, and to even make Yi Chu retire in such a fashion, just how attractive was Lulan Slash's team? The clubs thought too far into it and had come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories for the entire thing. Only Excellent Era knew the inside story behind Yi Chu's retirement and as a result were able to keep a clear mind. However, Yi Chu rising back with such momentum was something they didn't want to see either. Moreover, on Excellent Era's side, through Lu Hao's and Chen Yahui's efforts, they had received information the other clubs didn't have. Yi Chu had already netted a group of powerful experts, and it was very likely that this group was Lulan Slash's team. As a result, the club wanted Chen Yahui to gather information on Lulan Slash's guild and begin analyzing which of those from the guild might be the hidden experts. Witch, striker, assassin, launcher. Every Heavenly Justice player that used these classes were watched. Club Excellent Era's experts were currently wondering if they should use an open account and test them out. The problem was that Heavenly Justice was also a guild with the maximum 10,000 players. If they averaged all the classes, every class would have around 400 players. With 4 classes, that totaled around 1,600 players. If they went to test them, the amount of work would be too much. Not only that, their movements would be too large. Lulan Slash had just announced that he was going to create a team. If this Heavenly Domain Guild suffered an ambush, it would definitely attract a lot of unwanted attention. No club would want to attract the public's eye in this way. They had to think of a way to create a conflict. Excellent Era was trying hard to think of a countermeasure against the newly rebooted Yi Chu. Chapter 440, Team Feature. All of the clubs were worried because of this. Meanwhile, at Happy Internet Cafe, Yi Shu and Chen Guo were also looking at the news and the discussions that were being spread around by the players. They were being a bit naive with their team roster, but they're being pretty mature in hyping the team up, Yi Shu commented. What do you mean? See, they intentionally broke the message into 2 parts. First, they announced that I had joined Guild Heavenly Justice through the forums. Then, they released news that they were creating a team through the esport platforms. But did they ever say that I joined their team? No, right? Yi Shu said, this is to protect them from any form of criticism down the line. If they had said that I had joined their team, they would clearly be lying. But they're intentionally misleading everyone, Chen Guo said. Obviously. They've thought a lot about it, Chen Guo disdained. If they don't take their time to think, they won't be alive for very long, Yi Shu said. How come I didn't really see any thought being put into their team roster? Chen Guo said. Youngsters are quite naive, Yi Shu said, but if they were thinking about amazing the world as soon as they had began, don't you think they would put quite a lot of thought into it? Is their skill really not that good or were you intentionally provoking them? Chen Guo asked. Am I really that mean? Yi Shu was speechless. Chen Guo thought about it for a moment before finally saying, if you were being nice, then was it because you pointed out that their skill wasn't good enough or was it because you had provoked them to improve? It's because I pointed out that their skill wasn't good enough, of course, Yi Shu said. How are they when compared to me? Chen Guo asked. Yishu's expression already told her of his reply. You're real nice, aren't you? Chen Guo grinded her teeth. Listening to the news and looking at the drama, this was what Chen Guo did on her computer. Yishu, on the other hand, continued to level. It was a pity that he couldn't do any quests or dungeons in the heavenly domain. Although the experience from wild monsters in the heavenly domain was a lot better than they were in the normal servers, his leveling speed couldn't compare to the players who gained experience through the many level 50 dungeons. In the normal servers, the players had already reached level 51. In the heavenly domain, Yishu didn't spend any less time than they had, but he was only 2/3 of the way to level 50. There was nothing Yishu could do in this level 50 to 55 range. No matter how hard he tried, it would be very hard for him to maintain this leveling speed, so he wanted to hurry and get past this difficult leveling range. Especially because the current situation was now stable, Yishu needed to take full advantage of it. After getting past this level range, from level 55 to 70, the heavenly domain would have plenty of dungeons to run and many quests to complete. Leveling in the dungeon was much safer when compared to leveling in the wild, and the rewards were much better too. The sensation outside of the game had slowly trickled into the game. First was Guild Heavenly Justice. When the members had heard that their boss was going to form a team and enter the pro scene, they immediately became extremely proud of themselves. The current guild members of Heavenly Justice would naturally be Lulan/'s first supporters. Because of the number of players in the heavenly domain, there were 10 global chat channels, which players called Channel 1, Channel 2, Channel 3, Channel 4. All 10 channels were discussing this news. With a team being formed, the first thing players wanted to know was who the team members would be. Lulan/'s advertising was really quite good, and he understood what the players wanted. They had Lord Grimm attract everyone's attention. But after that, they maintained the mysterious atmosphere and didn't reveal any of their team members. That evening, on the esports channel, the creation of the team was the lead story. In the following article, they highlighted a few classes, holding the players in suspension. So far, the players knew which classes would be on the team, but who were the players exactly? It was still a mystery. The club guilds were still enduring silently. There would always be teams that would join the alliance every year, but this was the first time the team had rooted in the glory game. In addition, Lulan/ and Lord Grimm were already famous players. The amount of attention the team had attracted was absolutely unprecedented. It would be unwise for the clubs to stop the waves from flowing. Even Excellent Era wouldn't dare do such a thing. They could only wait for the waves to pass. The one thing they didn't know was that Heavenly Justice had talked about all this before. Not a bad job. Of all the teams over the years, you've probably done the best, Yishu said to Lulan/. It's not bad, it's not bad. Lulan/ had suffered a large blow in the arena, but was comforted greatly by their successful marketing. Next, I suggest that you slowly release information little by little, Yishu said. Oh. With the huge sensation you have created, the teams now hate you to death. The foundation you now have in the game is a clear target for them to suppress you with. But with the amount of attention you have on you right now, they can't rashly initiate a war with you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yishu said. So you're saying that we should slowly release information in order to prolong the amount of attention we get? Lulan/ said. Correct. The fact that your foundation comes from within game is different from the past teams, so you have to hurry and assimilate your power in-game into the club guild's balance of power and restrict the clubs from making any large movements. Only by doing this will you be able to develop smoothly, Yishu said. How complicated, Lulan/ said. Did you really think that the pro scene was just a competition, match after match? Yishu said. If not, it's a business, Yishu sighed. Lulan/ went silent for a moment before replying, how boring. It really is, Yishu agreed. You can't always do as you like in order to survive in this world. Is it this concept? Lulan/ said. As long as you understand smiley face, Yishu sent a smiley face, unless you only want to walk freely for a short while. In that case, you don't need to think about all this. That's not what I want to do. Our goal is to be champions, Lulan said. So you have to create a good foundation. Champions aren't created in one day. Your starting point is very good. Don't waste this great opportunity you have, Yishu said. Our starting point is good, Lulan said sullenly. What I'm worried about is that with all of the attention we now have, our actual skill won't match this popularity. When we got into the alliance and the results came out, if it's too terrible, won't we immediately lose a whole bunch of supporters? Yes, that's true. Right now, you only have popularity and attention. If you want to turn this into team fans, then it needs to be done through the team's performance. But you have to understand that a team's fans isn't always gotten through achievements, but through the team's features. Features. It could be a feature that players can resonate with or a unique feature that no other team has. I'll give you an example, land. The land your base of operations is located is a feature that many players can resonate with, Yishu said. That counts too, Lulan began to sweat. Of course, City H clearly has a lot of excellent era fans. City S, where the All-Stars took place, has a lot of Samsara fans. Where do you live? Yishu asked. I live in City B, Lulan said. City B, Yishu sent a helpless emoji. It seemed like everything he said was for nothing. Lulan also understood, City B already has 2 teams. If you go, you'll be the third. One of them is even Tiny Herb, the champion team. We will have to try and win over Tiny Herb fans, Lulan wanted to cry. It's very challenging, isn't it? Yishu said. Too challenging, Lulan was already choking. Land is an intrinsic feature. It's a relatively simple one. The others such as ace players or characters are also a type of feature. Among these, there's actually one class that's missing. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, Yishu said. Oh. Did you watch this year's All-Star Weekend? Yishu asked. Of course, Lulan said. Among the All-Star players, not a single player used a summoner, Yishu said. Oh, Lulan recalled. It was true. So if you can push out an all-star level summoner, you'll definitely win a lot of summoner fans, Yishu said. Summoner, we don't have one either, Lulan said. It's just an example, Yishu said. Hearing God speak, why does it feel like we hadn't planned enough for our team? Lulan cried. I'm just giving examples, Yishu said. We don't have any features, Lulan said. Then you can only decide on your position. You'll have to know what type of style you want the team to play, Yishu said. Quote. The ellipses let Yishu know that Lulan hadn't had any of those thoughts. Right now it's February. There's still 3 more months in this season and then a 3-month summer break. You'll have a good half a year to prepare before the season starts again in September. You'll have to find the correct way to improve yourselves. Bullying normal players in the arena won't help you much anymore, Yishu said. Minnesota. You even know about that? Lulan said. Know what? Yishu wasn't sure. You don't know? Never mind then, Lulan felt a bit embarrassed. After being crushed by Yishu in the arena last time, they went into the arena to regain their confidence by bullying normal players. Even though they had won every battle, they still weren't able to gain back their confidence. When Yishu said it, Lulan thought that God knew about their ridiculous actions. It's not that there aren't any experts in the arena. It's just that it's too difficult to find them. It'll mostly be a waste of time. You have to fight with real experts and gain experience. Under harsh conditions, practice your synergy and find your own strategy that fits you. The team's members can be switched, but if you can maintain the same unique playing style, that'll be a very valuable asset to your team. This is a team's feature. A feature again, Lulan was foaming at the mouth. After talking for quite a while, they came back to same issue.